Thick clouds of black smoke twist into the pale sky. Sparks fly from roaring furnaces, and the pounding of pistons echoes across crowded streets. Workers, men, women, even children, move like shadows beneath the looming silhouettes of machines. In just a few short decades, the old world of villages and farms was giving way to a new age. An age of steam, steel, and relentless innovation. What happens when humanity builds machines so powerful they reshape humanity itself? This is the story of the Industrial Revolution. How, in the span of a century, we transformed where we lived, how we worked, and what it meant to be human. In the mid-18th century, Britain was a land of quiet farms and small towns where life moved to the rhythm of the seasons. But beneath this simple surface, pressures were building. Populations were rising, trade was expanding, demand was outpacing tradition. And then, inventions sparked transformation. In 1764, James Hargreaves invented the spinning jenny, a simple device that multiplied a worker's output many times over. In coal mines, steam engines designed by James Watt pumped water from deep shafts, unleashing energy like never before. Factories sprang up along rivers powered by water wheels and burning coal. Towns like Manchester, Liverpool, and Birmingham became epicenters of innovation. But this wasn't just technological progress, it was social upheaval. Generations of craftsmen saw centuries of handcraft threatened by machines that could do in minutes what once took days. The countryside emptied as families left ancestral farms to seek wages in the growing industrial cities. The world was changing, and there was no going back. Britain's success didn't stay contained for long. Across Europe, industrialization swept through France, Germany, and Belgium, reshaping economies and societies. But it was across the Atlantic, in the United States, where the revolution found its most ambitious stage. By the early 19th century, America's vast natural resources, coal, timber, iron, became the fuel of innovation. Lowell, Massachusetts became known as the birthplace of the American textile industry, with massive mills harnessing rivers to power machines. Then came the railroads, a lattice of steel and timber stitching together an entire continent. Settlers, goods, and ideas moved faster than ever before. Steamships conquered oceans. Telegraphs shrank time, sending words across continents in seconds. Inventors like Eli Whitney with his cotton gin, Robert Fulton with his steamboats, and George Stephenson with his locomotives pushed humanity further and faster. America's cities grew taller, its factories louder, and its ambitions larger. The Industrial Revolution had crossed an ocean, and the US was poised to become a world power. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just a story of machines. It was a story of people. Cities swelled beyond capacity. Families crowded into crumbling tenements, while children as young as 6 toiled in dangerous factories for pennies. Thick soot coated entire neighborhoods, and rivers ran black with waste. The wealth gap widened as industrial barons, men like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller, amassed fortunes unimaginable to the workers who powered their empires. But the revolution wasn't without resistance. Workers began to organize, demanding fair wages, safer conditions, and shorter hours. Strikes erupted across Europe and America. Out of this struggle, labor unions were born, laying the foundations of modern worker protections. Amid hardship, innovation surged forward. Electricity illuminated streets and homes. Steel bridges stretched across rivers. Skyscrapers climbed toward the clouds. The modern world was emerging, breathtaking, relentless, unstoppable. By the late 19th century, the Industrial Revolution had spread far beyond Britain's smoke-filled factories and America's bustling mills. The ripples became waves, reshaping entire continents. In Germany, vast steelworks roared to life, forging the engines of modern warfare and commerce. France rebuilt its cities, electrifying boulevards and creating dazzling urban skylines. Across the Pacific, Japan launched the Meiji Restoration, racing to industrialize in just a few decades, transforming from an isolated feudal state into a rising global power. Trade routes exploded, linking empires together in ways humanity had never seen before. Steamships bridged oceans, and railroads carved through mountains, connecting distant nations. For the first time, a person could be born in one world and die in another, half a globe away. But this newfound power came with consequences. Old empires tightened their grip on colonies, extracting resources to feed their factories. Entire regions, from India as cotton fields to Africa as mines, were drawn into the machinery of global production. The world was more connected than ever, but also more divided by wealth, by power, by who controlled the engines of progress. For all its brilliance, the Industrial Revolution carried deep shadows. Coal smoke choked the skies above every industrial city. Rivers turned black with dyes, oils, and waste. Forests were stripped bare, mountains hollowed, and landscapes forever altered. For the first time in history, humanity's machines were reshaping nature itself, and we were blind to the cost. In the cities, the gap between rich and poor widened into a chasm. While industrialists built mansions and wielded unimaginable influence, millions of workers crowded into cramped, disease-ridden tenements. Children labored in mines so narrow adults couldn't crawl through. Women toiled for half the wages of men, their voices unheard and their rights denied. Out of this suffering, resistance grew. The rise of labor unions, workers' strikes, and social reforms signaled the birth of a new era, one where the masses began to demand dignity and fairness in a rapidly changing world. The Industrial Revolution promised progress, but progress always carries a price. As the 20th century approached, the Industrial Revolution had built the foundations of the modern world. It gave us electric light and moving pictures. It gave us steel bridges that spanned rivers and skyscrapers that touched the clouds. It created new economies, new cities, and new dreams. But it also gave us the tools of destruction, machines of war, weapons of mass production, and an unprecedented strain on our planet's fragile balance. The choices made in the age of steam and steel would echo across centuries. Even now, its fingerprints are everywhere. In every glowing smartphone, every cargo ship crossing the seas, every engine that roars to life. The Industrial Revolution didn't just change how we work, it changed how we live, how we connect, and how we see ourselves in the world. It didn't just change economies, it changed everything. And yet this was only the second epoch of change. Ahead lay new battles for freedom, for equality, for technology, for the future itself. The revolutions had only just begun. Subscribe to Epoch of Change and journey with us through the moments that shaped humanity.